And then from there, any kind of areas of interest, concern, questions, please feel free to ask. But just at the beginning. Leadership is an expression in its best of some wisdom, clarity, and some confidence to share with others. The abiding principle with the Dharma is the unshakable one, that the underlying truth of it is friendship. And in these teachings, the body of friendship takes priority, and then from that, there may be a person or persons who has experience, insights, the wish to share, and what goes with it as well is, generally speaking, an invitation from a senior to lead, to offer, to share something. I've noticed over the years that, understandably, there is often quite a lot of hesitation for people to step into the role of authority. It usually requires the good support of the senior or seniors or the organization or the network, but mostly, and in the long term, the practitioners, the students are the ones who make the decision. So a teacher might invite a person to lead a group, an organization or network might invite, the person agrees to that, to be the leader, but it's the friendship and the connection of the leader with the participants, with the practitioners, that's really where the primary authority is. And if we, who are in the privilege of some kind of authority or leader, if we remember we are servants, in this case of the Dharma, servants of the practitioners, that communication will help to develop the relationship between the leader and the practitioners, the teacher and the student. Because friendship is the key to all of this. So finally, the leader obviously is not authoritarian. The leader is not encouraging guru devotion. The friendship and support is where the value is. And that's how it is with the best of the Dharma teaching. Enough.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yes.
I can see Sahar at the top of my screen up there. Hello, Sahar. How are you? All well? And to you too.
Yes. One of the themes that we worked on in this course was intention.
Yeah.
And what intentions do I bring to a class, as a participant, to whatever I do, to my goals in life, and And so, if you have anything you want to talk about intention and how to work with intention.
Unfortunately, I always have too much to talk about, so that's how it is. It's a major area, meaning in all of the psychological, emotional dynamics that take place, all those constructions, those formations in our inner life, one of the most important is intention. It's a critical area for mindfulness. What is the intention? And in these kind of teachings, quite often, initially, either for any of us, initially, intention often has an interest. One, is it good for me? Am I getting benefit? Is it supportive? Which also can be quite okay. The second area is towards the other, especially for a teacher, leader, or whatever. Is she or he getting some benefit from it? Or a combination. I am in this role, whoever I am. I get some benefit from it. It feels good to do. She, he, they are getting some benefit. It feels good for them. And I say, those three considerations are actually not the important ones. So initially, the intention is about myself. There's one, about the other, two, or about both of us, the others and me. Now, I put this as a kindergarten understanding of intention. It's the vulnerability with both is the reaction or the state of mind. Do I like, am I good enough? Do I like what I'm doing? Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's a minefield. Do the others approve of me? Are they liking what I'm saying? Am I clear? Is it helpful? Etc., etc. Whoa, whoa. That could be another minefield. Or put the two together. Then you've got two minefields. So, yes, those feelings and thoughts do arise. Of course, we're human there. But the shift, it is the freeing up, the liberating of intention. Somehow, we have to trust in the intention.
No, Anna?
כן.
תראי את עצמך.
מה לעשות? מיוט.
תקטיני את עצמך.
Your voice has gone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, nice. Good enough. So what? So should I finish or enough?
What?
Do you want me to say any more? Or
Yes, the last part we didn't finish.
okay, I'll repeat. So the Dharma, the teachings, of course, are respectful to the self, to other, and both. But when trust and confidence and wisdom develops, that voice of intention or the action, the trust and confidence is in that. The wisdom is there. I do not need the approval of the other, and I do not need the approval of myself. Understand? It starts to move out of the self-other category because the action is valid. And that's the best of intention.
Valid.
Enough? Clear?
One question? יש לכם שאלות שהייתם רוצות לשאול?
Yeah.
Shaul is asking, what makes it valid?
The action which makes it valid, it depends a little bit. One is, in these teachings, of course, it's reducing suffering, and it's providing insight and understanding. What makes it valid is that there is a genuine ethic that goes with it. What makes it valid, it brings and helps establish some... Oh, your phone or mine?
Yours.
Mine. Hang on. Hang on. Hey.
קשה לך להבין אותו?
All right. I'll keep the phone. Okay, I'm back.
כן.
All right, all clear?
זה שאלות ותשובות. על המנחה?
All right, so okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Sorry?
Good. I'm ready when you are.
משהו... אז הוא לא... אני קצת הבאתי, הוא לא סיים לענות, נכון? על הוואליד. So, can you continue with the question of what makes it valid?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
It is hard to know at the time whether one's own response to intention or the response of the other is the valid response. Understand? So sometimes in the activity we may not know, but what we do know is that the intention has no interest to cause any harm or suffering or fear or reactivity. It's just not in the intention. One knows it.
Yes.
Secondly, it's contributing to insight, to understanding, to peace of mind there. And the trust in that means that one's not dependent on my approval, the self, nor, in fact, on the approval of the other or the disapproval. Sometimes we can have a genuinely really important experience. It really feels to be really valid at the time. We share it with our friends. We share it with the leader. We share it with the teachers, and of course with ourselves. Something which is valid has a staying power to it, which means I know it's valid by the time that comes after it. If it's true, insightful, and deep, it has a staying power to it. It genuinely stays. One really knows this is beneficial. And therefore its validity is confirmed in time. That's how we know.
Yeah, good. יש לכם שאלות? מה את רוצה לגבי intention? Yes. מה ה-intention שלו? Okay. We have a question from Melissa, and she wanted to elaborate more on intention and to talk more specific, because we talked about it a lot, what is the intention, but she was wondering, like when you come to this class, what is your intention now with us? Like right now, what is your intention when you talk with us?
Very, very simple. Is to share with you would be one primary intention. To be in the company of the Sangha of practitioners would be two. To keep an agreement with you, Mikhail.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
So those would be the intentions. And all being well, out of the intentions, something which is asked and the response from here will be helpful. And if it is helpful and has gone deep, it will stay after you and I have said shalom, good night.
Wow.
All right.
יש לך עוד שאלות? כן?
Hey.
מה? את צריכה ללכת? אוקיי. יש לך שאלות לגבי מה שאת רוצה, כל המימד הפסיכולוגי והדינמיקה הקבוצתית, אתם רוצות לנסות את זה כשאלה?
אני גם מתייחס לזה.
כן.
כן.
מה? איך היית מנסחת את זה? אני אנסה. One of the things we talked a lot is about group dynamic.
Yeah.
About group dynamic and dharma.
Yeah.
And how to combine it? Yeah. How to combine the dharma when you come to as a facilitator to a situation where there is group dynamics. And when you have intention to work, if you have intention to work, how to work with it, whatever you have to talk about it, about how to work in a group when there are different dynamics.
Yeah. The Dharma is basic. The Sangha is basically an ongoing group dynamic. That's what the Sangha is. It's all about, Sangha is all about group dynamic. And it may show itself on the retreat with silence, of course, and all the dynamics that go on in the silence. It may take place in the communication. To come back to the earlier point, one has to tread a little carefully with intention, because in the group dynamic, there is very little continuity of the same intention. Only takes a little shift. Somebody only has to say something, it has an impact and our intention may change. Yeah. So in the group dynamic, as always, if there's a facilitator, it needs facilitating. It needs to ensure everybody has a voice. It needs some guidelines of agreements in the dynamic beforehand, like not interrupting, it would be one important one. Not raising the voice would be another. Not finding fault and criticizing would be another. And to ensure that the voices in the group, everybody feels their voice is heard. And so that those who are more quieter really feel they are being listened to. And those who are comfortable with talking in the group dynamic ensure and agree that they will not dominate the group dynamic. And like the Buddha commented, because there's many passages on group dynamics in the text. My goodness me, many. And it starts off, he always says, one starts off with some silence, some stillness, like I did, a moment of stillness, or a minute of stillness. And one finishes with it as well. And that helps there. Also, in the guidelines with group dynamics, what is said after a meeting is extraordinarily important, because sometimes the intention changes, there is a reaction, and the person starts putting down the group dynamic or the theme or the leader or the facilitator or a particular person, and that impression is then carried into the next group dynamic. So when the sharing of the participants is finished, be mindful of the voice. Really be mindful of the voice, because that impression can get carried around.
יש לכם עוד שאלות? מה? Okay. What do you have to say about the presence of the facilitator?
What do I have to say? How long should I talk? How long should I talk for? Can you hear me okay? Voice
yes.
Still... All right,
yes.
okay. It depends what the wish is. What I mean by that is, if the facilitator can develop personal friendship, good friendship outside of the group, it will help a lot, if possible. The facilitator's role is to connect with everybody, so everybody, to repeat, feels they have the voice there. There are two roles in facilitation. The most common one is the facilitator facilitates without a view of the situation there. And most facilitators prefer to be the kind of witness who just looks after the group. Some of us, and I am one of those, have too many opinions. So there is the group, and perhaps I am the facilitator, but sometimes I wish to share a view which I have about it as well. So you understand, one is have no view, only facilitate. The other is facilitate, and with the agreement of the group, to have a view as well.
Okay. They want to know a little about yourself.
Myself, what's that?
About how you, when you were a monk. A monk.
Yeah.
A little about the self.
Right. I don't know if you can see, but maybe, can you see behind me there's a cabinet?
Uh-huh.
In that cabinet, this is from the time I was in the East, my mother kept all the letters and wrote, because there's no emails and all that. This is 1967 to 1977. She kept every letter. So in that cabinet, from April 67 to May 1977, there are 427 letters and around 20 diaries. And I'm trying to make some memoir out of it at the moment. So I left home in 67, made the overland to India. I was actually on my way to Israel, but this was June 1967. It didn't seem to be the best time to come. So I bypassed and went through Iran instead. And Iran in went to Afghanistan and took that road. It was safer. And then into Pakistan, India, Nepal, So after maybe 20, 25 countries of traveling, in a way, I kind of wanted to make the inner journey. And that ended up with me shaving my head and putting on the robes and taking ordination, which was a lovely period. So and then I disrobed in 1976 after 6 years. And then the following year decided I've been enough time out of England, enough time in the East, and then carried on through, where did I go? Hong Kong, Korea, California, New York, and then back to England. Well, actually, really, 10 years, I was away. I'm doing this memoir, which I'm calling 10 Years and 10 Days, which is the 10 years and 10 days I was out of this country. That's what I'm writing about. Slowly, slowly.
כן, אני רוצה אותך, אבל לא עכשיו.
Yeah, your picture's good. All right, I'm back. Go on.
Christopher, can you talk?
Yeah.
מחמוד. תראי לי. לא, זה לא עכשיו. עכשיו יש איזו שיחה חשובה לי עם כריסטופר, בגלל איזו פגישה.
הנה. Christopher, can you talk?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, good.
מה רצית? Can you tell us about when your intention, when you started to be a monk, and your intention when you stopped being a monk?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, of course, we're going back a long time. We're talking 50 years. Many of you will remember 50 years ago. So, in a way, because of being on the road, it actually seemed a small intention. I was living out of a backpack. I was walking a lot. I was living a life of immense simplicity. So it was a small change from long hair to shaved head and from hippie clothes to monk's clothes. So, on the outer, but the more important thing is I've been reading about the Buddhist tradition. Can you hear me still?
Yes, continue.
Okay, and there were things which I liked very much. One was I didn't have to believe in G-O-D, which is very nice. It was easier already. God. I prefer to believe in D-O-G, if you see what I mean. Then what you can get your hands on it. Anyway. So it allowed me to, I have some experience, hitchhiking, traveling, 3 years on the road. So being told teachings of impermanence was, it was strong for me because I was living a very impermanent lifestyle. The other, which was important to me, was the Buddha gives a lot of teaching about not clinging to anything or anyone. So from 67 to 77, being on the road, no time for any clinging, new day, new directions, new places, new people, moving on. So these two teachings really touched me deep, very genuinely deep. And I thought to myself, I want to find out more. What is mindfulness? What is meditation? What is deep experience? Etc. So that's what I did. So that was the initial intention, just to go deeper. And then coming to the end of the period, it was a wonderful period. It just felt complete. And the metaphor that came, it sounds a little conceited, but was, when the fruit is ripe, it has to leave the tree. And I thought to myself, it's complete. So I went to the abbot and said, I decided to disrobe. He then asked me questions, like just the same on a retreat. Somebody on a retreat says to me, I've decided to leave the retreat. So I, or the other teachers, we will ask what the motive is. Sometimes it's just a kind of agitated state of mind. So then I might say, oh, well, stay overnight. See if your view and the wish to leave is still the same tomorrow or whatever. Stay one night, 2 nights. And sometimes people say, oh, right, it was just a state of mind. I'll stay till the week is over, or the 10 days, or the 2 weeks, or whatever. But sometimes it's really clear. It's 6 years, enough. And I spoke to the abbot. He realized it was not coming from reaction, not coming from running away, that it was time to finish. And then I went through the ritual of disrobing. So that's how it ended. The intention was to start something fresh and new. That was the intention. And we have to listen sometimes to our inner voice, and sometimes it's hard for others. A person is in another relationship. I was in a relationship with the monastery, in a relationship with the teachers, in the relationship with the monks, and with the lifestyle. Somebody else might be in a relationship with a job, or a relationship with a partner, or a relationship with the place where they live. And sometimes that movement and intention comes, and the partner or the employer may not understand at all. Why are you leaving? You've got everything here for you. You should stay. You shouldn't leave. But sometimes we have to really hear the voice inside. And there is a risk. We might leave that relationship or that job or that place. We might regret it later. Oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? But sometimes the stepping out of the familiar and stepping into something new is part of the adventure. And even if friends and family or partner or lover doesn't understand, sometimes we don't understand, but still sometimes we have to do it because life is short. and we have to make sure there is adventure in our life. Yeah.
They ask how you became a teacher. What was your transition from practicing to start to teach?
I actually just had a recent conversation just on this there. So in a way, it happened in 2 kinds of ways for me. So I'd been in the monastery 2 or 3 years. First couple of years, I was the only Westerner. And I've got here a photograph in the monastery with around 100 monks and just one Westerner sitting amongst all these monks. That's me. Then after a year or 2, some Westerners began to come. 1, 2, 5, 10. And then the teacher said, oh, teach them Vipassana, like that. So I'd give some instructions and give them some support. And that was the start of it. The second, also with Ajahn Buddhadasa as well, when they knew I was going back to the West, and they knew that I had disrobed to go back to the West, both of them said, oh, go back to the West and teach. So no instructions, no training program, no course, no expensive $6,000 a year online process, etc. They just said, go and teach. And so I did.
Good for us.
Thank you, it's very sweet.
We talked a lot about how to work with difficulties.
Yeah.
Because there are many difficulties that can arise when we facilitate a group, where we meet ourselves, we meet different wishes, different things that happen. What do you have to say about it, about how can we work in a wise way with difficulties?
Yeah. In the dynamics, like you mentioned, of Sangha and groups, I am one of those who write lots of notes, and in various group dynamics as one, or on retreats, or what I listen to, I take lots of notes. I want to make sure I'm learning from that group. I'm learning about myself, I'm learning about the other, and that the key interest in the other, the warmth and the friendship there. And even when people may be in a group a bit angry or upset with us, the person may have a really good point. And it's listening to that point, even if they're a bit angry and upset. What's the point? What can I learn from her? What can I learn from him? And to write it down and make some time for reflection. So there's a feeling inside of constantly learning and growing. And that to me really helps there. And the Sangha, the practitioners, I think have a responsibility to give us some feedback, to allow them and to give them the opportunity to help us to grow as human beings, as leaders and facilitators. That's part of the friendship and sharing that goes on. We've got to nourish each other and feed each other and listen out for each other. And if a teacher's being given too hard a time, some teachers are rather gentle, they can't cope with aggression and blame. We need to also to be protective as well, to give support to the teachers who are a little vulnerable around blame and reaction and anger, and recognize the teacher, she or he's doing their best. So we listen out for each other. That's the main thing. Yeah.
How to cultivate friendship? Okay. You talk a lot about friendship and the importance of friendship.
Yeah.
How do you suggest to cultivate it in our life?
Yeah.
And in a group, how to cultivate it in our life and as a facilitator in the group?
Yeah. Most friendship seems to come when we're giving more than we are receiving. And that's back to the intention again. The giving of time, energy, organizational skills, listening to each other, all these acts of friendship, they really, really matter. And this famous statement with the Buddha, he's the high priest on the friendship level. His comment with regard to friendship, when asked, isn't half of this life lived for friendship? Metta means friendship. Then he says, no, all of it. So as a Brahma Vihara, meaning as a very deep abiding inside, it's one of those reflections on the daily basis. What are the expressions of friendship which I have offered today? And with the group, with the person on the street, and with the three kinds of people, the friendly, the strangers, and the unfriendly. And those three kinds can be found in a group easily. Sometimes we ourselves, we can find the three kinds of people inside of ourselves. Friendly, a stranger to others, and unfriendly. I just had an email 2 days ago, and the person said he sat a retreat with me. It was given in, anyway, this place in Scotland, where very popular place. Oh, I forget. And it was for the staff. They were going through a very stressful period. So he said in the hall, he asked me a question. This is 1996. And he said it was about a deep experience that he had. And he said that I didn't really listen to him, and it really upset him, and he's never forgotten it. Probably never forgiven me either, but anyway, never forgotten. So then he just read an article I'd written, and he just sent me an email, and the email said, 1996, I had a deep experience. You didn't, I can't remember how he said, you didn't really listen to what I had to say. That really upset me. And now, 23 years later, I'm just letting you know. And he thanked me for the article that I'd written. That's 23 years. I can't remember, obviously, the conversation. So in the next 2 or 3 days, I'll email him.
What will you tell him?
Eh?
What will you tell? What will you write?
He wrote a little bit about the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, usually I would respond very affirmatively. It's unusual for me to find fault with it. So thank him for the appreciation for what he said. Thank him for his appreciation for the article. It was on spirituality in daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And to, for what he said about it, to reiterate a genuinely valid form of experience. So I'm not quite sure what I must have said. But sometimes it happens, the person hears a few words, but not the overall picture. Or maybe I just reacted. I don't know. I can't remember. But I'll send him some warm words and appreciation for what he wrote. That's basically.
Uh-huh. Okay. There is a question about the connection between not clinging and ethics. What happened about non-clinging and ethics?
Ethics.
What happens if, as I facilitate, there is something that is happened that is not in accordance with my values, And I feel that I cling to my values, that it's important to me to go with my value, and there is a sense of some clinging to them. This is a question. So how to work with it?
Very good. The one, the ethics, the values, the moral standpoint, let's say, assuming there is no blame, aggression, and violence in the view, because if there is, it has to be looked at. So there is the value, the ethics, the moral standpoint. Staying true to it is not the confirmation of clinging. No, so I, and like yourself, will have certain values. I stay true to those values, obviously non-violence, non-exploitation, the importance of friendship, and much more. Stay true to them. I will know if there is clinging due to the reactivity towards the other, fault finding, blame, putting the other down. I may disagree quite strongly with the view of the other. So tomorrow, example, in Britain tomorrow, there is the vote in Parliament on Brexit. You heard of Brexit? This leaving of the European Union, etc. The whole country is in chaotic political confusion. There are lots of views being expressed, ethics and values and so forth. So I say, one stays true to ethics, to values, non-harming, non-exploitation, sustainable way of life, etc. there. Others may have a different view, because the political masters say something else, or the parents say something else, or the authority. It's when there is the reactivity going on inside of ourselves towards the other mostly, then that would show the clinging, not staying true to a value or an ethic. And sometimes, as we know, men and women on this earth have stayed true to a value or an ethic, and it's cost them years in prison, political prison. It's cost them their lives, or it's cost them their job or their career. But we need people who will stay true to something and really be careful about clinging, which creates so much stress and pressure. We're in the staying true business and in the non-clinging business. That's our engagement. How are we doing?
We are doing great. We are thinking about what you are saying.
Thinking about what I'm saying, all right. Nice.
About what? Yes. Okay. Yes. There is a question about what you think about Dana versus taking money, asking for money for your teaching.
It's a good question. Yeah. These are all your good questions this evening.
It's a very good group.
Very good group. Of course, it's a good group. But all of them, it's actually part of the dialogue and the debate that's going on everywhere. All these questions, many conversations in the coffee shop, and on the phone, and in with the retreat world, and much more. And particularly this one around dana and payment. I have, like many people, have plenty of views about it. So on the dana level, it requires a lot of trust, of course, and so forth. But in the realism of it, it's a lot easier to, offer dana on the retreat because it's residential. People get a sense of the service that's being offered, realize that it's time away from, could be family or kids or forms of income. And so there is much more chance, opportunity, and willingness to really give support to the teachers in the residential situation. Outside of that, it's a little easier if one's giving a one-day workshop, 9 till 6 in the evening. What's important in both cases is that the person who speaks about the donations speaks about it lovingly, kindly, very, very clearly to explain it. And so one of the participants a couple of years ago, she said to me, I was on a retreat with another teacher, and she said, it was a guy, and she said, his dana talk was absolutely brilliant. It was just an amazing dana talk. So I said to her, do go and do another retreat with him and record it, and I'll memorize every word of it.
Ask Jack, maybe he can help you also.
Yeah, it's good. Jack is he's up there in the top.
Yeah, in the top.
Everybody, they were raising $18 million for the Spirit Rock Center.
Yeah.
When I spoke to him years ago, they'd raised 13 million, and he had raised most of it himself.
Yeah, yeah. Good for him. I have a question.
Go on.
This course...
Let me just finish.
Yes.
So then, I'm absolutely fine with payment. I've no problem with the payment. It's an exchange. One is providing a service, one is receiving something in return. But I do ask those who work through payment to please ensure as much as possible that those, the students, the low income, the unemployed, the elderly, that there is some space for them. That is stated. So otherwise it's just the privileged who can do these things. And without a lot of inquiry, somebody says, well, I don't have very much money. And then one says, oh, well, you can pay later and you can borrow the money. No. We have to trust people. Personally, I haven't got much money. Like I just received a couple of emails in terms of India and just a certain trust that the donations will come in okay. 2 people haven't got any money. They're our guest. Or payment, but there's space for guests. We have to look after our poor friends.
Yeah. This course is about how to combine mindfulness in different courses. In different groups, courses. The idea is that we can bring mindfulness when we talk about leadership, when we talk about relationship, if we do a class about even about sport, about nutrition. And I wanted to ask you what you think can be about what do you think about this combination?
Yeah.
And what can a facilitator bring to a group?
Yeah.
So the group that is not learning mindfulness can have a sense of the mindfulness in those different courses.
Yeah, yeah. I get the picture. Rather unfortunately, in the world of mindfulness, it's been defined in this being in the present moment without being judgmental. This is the classic definition. You know, if the Buddha heard it, he would weep. You know, it's such a simplistic one-liner. But it's the West. We like everything defined in one sentence. There, but the word mindfulness, sati, has a much bigger meaning, and it includes past, present, and future. It includes every activity. So this is where the Sangha of practitioners, with each other, we can share with each other what's the value of being more mindful when I'm in sport. What's the value of being more mindful when I'm doing my accounts, when I'm sharing my experience with my partner? So those who are dedicated to the Dharma, we have to find ways through the talking together so that when we go and speak to some authority figure, what do I need to be mindful of in this communication? Or if I am the authority figure, what do we need to be mindful of when I go to speak with her or him or them? So we're opening out mindfulness. And if we keep with our experience, we'll learn a lot more. And if we avoid, like the plague, a single definition, we'll have a much bigger sense of it. That's what I mean by mindfulness. So we just have an hour together here. Afterwards, almost for sure, I go downstairs, have a cup of tea or whatever. I'm just writing a blog, by the way, on mindfulness on how to make a proper cup of tea. Just because my friends come, they have no idea of this English tradition of how to make a cup of tea. They think you drop a bag in and put some half hot water on it. So I'm writing some guidelines. It's like mindfulness, how to be mindful. I'll send you a copy.
Yes. We have a participant here that is writing a blog about how to drink beer.
How to drink beer?
How to pour a beer.
Exactly. All these things. To make, a friend in France, she's giving the tea ceremonies. I've been to one. It's an art form.
Yeah.
So mindfulness is making something into an art form.
Yes. I have a question. Let's have it as a last question. You said that we want to help people to see how to be mindful in different situations.
Yeah.
How can I teach it? How can I teach people to be more mindful when they do different things?
Drag them out to Eindor.
Oh,
bring them to Eindor.
Yeah, if they don't want to learn mindfulness, yes. That's very good idea.
Put them on a bus, lock the door, and Hello.
That's a great idea.
All right. So, the intention is back to the intention. And the intention really to be mindful. Do I want to live a more conscious life?
Okay.
Do I want to see more and hear more and feel more and connect more, etc.? That's what mindfulness is.
Okay.
Do I want to really connect with life, or do I want to be boring, dull, withdrawn, and live like a tortoise with my head in underneath inside? So it's to get the intention.
Okay. Great. Great. Christopher, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Lots of love, and I'll thank you.
Okay.
I'll see you. Hey. Oh, hello, guy. Here, Sahar.
Good.
All right, and I'll see you in September. But
Yes.
we'll talk again soon.
Yes, we talk about other things. Good.
Okay, lots of love, Michael. Thank you for the kind invitation.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.